Hello, this is Rocky Marciano. When I was heavyweight champion of the world, they called me the Brockton Blockbuster. You find out why.
Yeah, John, how are you? You've been doing a lot of research, I see. I was a kid. We lived in a two-tenement house on Dover Street. Mm-hmm. My mother, who's Rocky's oldest sister, Alice, my dad and I lived upstairs, and my grandparents, Rocky's parents, lived downstairs. Their original home on 80 Brook Street, where all the kids, the 6 kids, grew up. Then they bought the house on Dover Street. So Rocky was there, lived there a short time, and then, after he got married, he moved away, and obviously was home a lot because his parents lived there, and so we had a lot of interaction. I was young. I think I was the ring bearer at his wedding, and so he was always around. I got to know him well later in life because I went to college in New York, and he kept an apartment in the Upper West Side, I think, and was there during my 4 years, 3 of the years at college, and then he died at the end of my junior year. So growing up, some of the stories are as I've related in my text to you about, when I was young and him lending me money and things like that. Growing up was the best. I mean, I had an idyllic life. Rocky was heavyweight champ, and of course, just being related to him meant good and bad things growing up. Kids wanted to be my friends, and other kids wanted to beat me up because I was Rocky's nephew. So, in one regard, at one time I said to Rocky when he was home, I'm like, you got to teach me something how to fight because I'm getting my ass kicked. And, what do I do if people want to fight me? And he said, talk your way out of it. And I said, what if I can't talk my way out of it? He said, walk away from it. And I said, okay, what if they follow me? He said, run. I said, run. What if they corner me in a alley and I can't get away from him? He said, pick up a rock and kill the motherfucker. Like, okay. Now I get it. So after that, I never really had many problems because I was always the first guy to step up and throw the first punch. So a lot of life lessons growing up. Rocky was obviously heavyweight champ, so when I was first became a teenager and stuff, I was able to, every time Rocky came to town, the local car dealerships would want to give him to drive my car, Rocky, so I can say you drove a car from this dealership and whatever. So, I'm 15, 16, 17, I'm driving frickin' Bonneville convertibles and Rivieras, and so my life was kind of idyllic. And then, people would show up at the house that, today are, famous, but at the time, like I was just a kid, but Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher and Connie Francis and those kind of people would be around like all the time, it seemed. One story that I could tell you, and I don't know if you want to hear this, but when I was a freshman or sophomore in college, I came home for the weekend, and Rocky showed up with a bunch of people, and one of the guys, and my grandmother made lunch, and one of the guys was Frankie Carbo, who was head of Murder Incorporated at one point, and my grandmother said, take your jacket off, Frankie, and no, Ma, I'm fine, because he was wearing a shoulder holster. And I go back to college, and the first week I'm back, they show the 5 families in New York, and Carbo in the middle as the enforcer for all of the 5 families. And then later on in life, I find out that Frankie Carbo was the guy that put the bullet in Bugsy Siegel's eye in Vegas, and I'm like, holy shit. So things like that mind, and other things. When after Rocky won the title, he had a ring made for his mother, of the rubies and diamonds from the championship belt, which I still have as the oldest grandson, and my grandmother gave me the ring, which I still have, which I'll obviously pass down.
Yeah.
So connected wise, it was I was it was Rocky, Peter, and Sonny. They were all great athletes in their own right. I mean, they all tried out for the pros, the Cubs and the Braves, and we lived across the street from James Edgar Playground, and every one of them could hit the ball out of the park.
Yeah.
Growing up, and two of them went to and played Legion ball and hit them out of Fenway. I mean, they were great. And then I was next, and I kind of sucked in comparison to these guys who were all, athletes. In fact, one time, Rocky, Peter, and Sonny, three brothers, took me down because we were all catchers, and I was afraid to stick my head down, and because I was afraid of getting hit by the ball bouncing off the plate or off the bat or whatever. And so they tied my hands behind my back, and they put my face down on the plate. They bounced baseballs off the plate into my face for a half hour. And obviously, after that, I was never afraid to go deep for a ball. And, I thought later, today, it was like Jimmy Pearsall. Today, they would think that was abuse.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter was, it's a great life lesson. And I learned a lot of that from my uncle and growing up. Things that happened to me were because of Rocky. We'd go to Grossinger's, and we'd go to the Saints, and all these famous hotels. And in fact, at Grossinger's, one night my parents were going out to dinner with Rocky, and they had no one to watch me. So Martin and Lewis were playing in the show that night, and they said, "Well, we'll watch him." And so Martin Lewis babysat for me when I was just a kid, and I'm like, shit like that just doesn't happen to people. It was really interesting when I was in college. I alluded to it in another book when we went to see Sinatra. But Rocky used to call me on a whim. Like, I get a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning because he was in the Upper West Side and I was on Long Island. He'd say, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Uncle Rock, it's 2 in the morning. I'm sleeping." And he'd say, "Go out front. There's a limo there. I'm going to take you to meet me. We're going somewhere." And I'm like, "Where?" And I'm like, "I got school tomorrow." And he's like, "Fuck that. Come, just get in the limo." So he had no, he had nothing that held him back. He just thought, this is important for you, and come and do it. And I would do it. And so growing up was different. Rocky would show up like at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning with a group of his best buds, and just show up at the house, and my grandmother would get up and cook for everybody, and it was nothing for him to just do that, just show up unexpectedly, and then after he would leave. I remember one time my mother going into a closet and was moving some things around and found a paper bag, and there was like $10,000 or $20,000 in it. And later she said to Rocky, and Rocky's like, "I don't trust banks very much." He was famous for that, so he used to hide money everywhere. He purportedly used to stay at the same room, like at a hotel in New York, and would take down the shower curtain and stuff the rod with bills, and know they were there. So next time he went back, he'd always have access to the money. I remember going with him one time, and he had to make some phone calls. We went to a payphone, and he had like metal coins that weren't real coins, and he would make all these phone calls for free. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Fuck the phone company. They make too much money," and shit like that. So he was. people called him miserly, and he was, but he came from poor background.
Yeah.
Money meant everything. I remember one time being with him, and he was. They wanted him to give a speech at something. And we came in. The guy said to him, "Rocky, we set up a heavy bag in the room. We'd like you to hit the bag for a few minutes." And Rocky was pissed. He's like, "I'm here to give a speech. I'm not here to hit a heavy bag. I'm not a fucking monkey." And the guy said, everybody's expecting you to do this. He said, "Okay, fine, I'll do it. $1,000 for every punch I throw." It was just great being around him and growing up around that atmosphere.
If you like this content, then hit the subscribe button. To really support this channel, consider joining for just over $1 a month and unlock ad-free members-only content. Every member becomes a research funder and will play a key part in revealing the real Rocky.
I just enjoyed combat. I just enjoyed the sport that I had learned so well, and I had practiced so much that when the bell rang, I did a job. I could concentrate on the opponent. It was a great career for me. I'm proud and very happy to talk about it. Sometimes I wonder why I was such an aggressive man in the ring.